Hello and welcome to another episode of Gotham Sound TV. I am very excited to be with Karl Winkler from Lectrosonics. Karl, it is really great to see you.
Always great to see you, Peter. Thanks for having me.
You bet. You are coming, I can hear something in your office. You're coming to us from New Mexico. Is that right?
Yes, this is the office in Rio Rancho at the Lectrosonics headquarters. Yes, my little corner of the world.
Awesome. Thank you for taking the time.
Sure. Well, I wanted to cover some things about the DSR, the new dual channel slot receiver, as well as the DSR4. A couple updates and some news there, as well as some related accessories. Just want to make sure everyone understands what's available for these things and some of the ins and outs of using them. So that's the main thing I want to cover.
Karl and I would love to see your comments, and we will be checking comments and answering them as we can. So please, any suggestions, any questions, anything you'd like us to go over in more detail, let us know, and we will see it in the comments and answer appropriately.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Peter.
I have to say that I often in my head I refer to the DSR as the DSR2, and not just in my head. I say it out loud. But the
Yeah.
DSR is 2 channels, and the DSR4 is 4 channels, and those are the official model numbers.
Correct. And, we debated about the name. The DSR came before the DSR4 in the design effort, okay? And when it was only the DSR, it made sense. We go from SR, SRA, SRB, SRC, DSR. It's not just the next one in line, it's digital. After we started that and it had a name, we came out with the DSR4, and it was actually introduced to the market first. So therein lies the confusion. So you're not alone. I mean, it happens to me too. So
Just yes, yeah. Joe correctly said, if I'm confusing it, we should make it clear to our viewers. Take us away.
sure. Well, the DSR is now out and shipping, and it's been doing very well for us. That's this unit here, dual channel, full-time vector diversity on both channels. And one of the things about it is you might see some old pictures out there. In fact, we have my introduction video for the DSR and the DSR4 shows the old version of this product that looks more like an SRC but black with a different display. And along the way, last year we decided to change that and make that more like the DSR4 with the same display. In fact, if I hold them next to each other, you see it has the same front panel, the same display, and very similar menu structure. So this is what the DSR looks like now. This is the dual channel unit. Physically, one difference is the heights. And we did this specifically because the DSR is able to use all of the prior SRC, SRB accessories. Mounting, powering, docks, they all fit right on the DSR. Whereas the DSR4, because it's 4 channels, can't use those, and it's also longer. So DSR4 has its own battery sled as well as back plates because of the 4 channel. But I just want to point out that DSR, the 2 channel version, is exactly the same length as an SRC and takes the same back plates. So that's one thing I wanted to make sure everyone understood. There is one new backplate accessory for the DSR, the 2 channel, and that is the DSR EXT USB. And I've got that mounted here. It's got the Hiroshi 4 power connector, your 2 TA3 outputs for your 2 channels of audio, either analog or digital, native in the unit, and the USB-C for connection to Wireless Designer. So that's the one unique backplate for the DSR 2 channel unit.
Now, the DSR4, if we can go over that, that has USB connectivity built in for Wireless Designer. Is that right?
They both do, and that is on this top panel right under the display. There's a USB micro B connector, and so you could connect either one of these that way, and that's how I have the DSR4 connected right now. And then there are the back plates that have the USB connection on it. That's the one for the DSR4. So the DSR4 has one. It's got 2 TA5s, a Hiroshi 4 and USB-C. And the DSR has the 2 TA3s, the Hiroshi 4 and the USB. So These could be used in a bag and connect via USB right off the bottom plate.
And of course, if they're used in a rack, that USB on the back on that back plate allows for wireless designer in a very neat, handy way. You're not trying to
Absolutely.
physically,
Exactly right.
yeah, trying to physically get the USB to work. And I did notice USB-C.
USB-C, yes.
And so right now that's just data and not power. Is that right?
Correct. You're not able to power the receiver from the USB jack, but it's just data for control, connection to wireless designer, and so on.
Awesome.
And I should note, too, that to update the firmware on either one of these units, you do need to use the top panel USB, not the one on the back plate. I've noticed some people have that backwards and think that you can only do it from the back plate, which is, it's the other way around.
Right.
You can only do it from the top panel.
I imagine that's holdover logic from how we would update the SR, the analog SR, where you needed a backplate to update the firmware. But
Exactly.
on this, you do not need that. That's awesome. If there is a future consideration for a backplate to do USB-C power delivery, to be able to power from it, and then I would vote, and I'd be curious to know, for people's comments for USB audio as well as an option. In a future backplate, we'll see how many thousands we can guarantee in sales with that, but.
Sure thing, man. Write me a PO for 1,000 and we'll get it done. Speaking of all this, I know one of the questions on a lot of people's mind is about wireless designer and compatibility with these two new receivers. And I'm happy to report that we're actually very, very close to release, maybe a couple of weeks once we get it all packaged up. But right now, if anyone was watching, I've got this connected here on this DSR4. This is working with the PC version of Wireless Designer right now on my desktop.
Yep.
It's got all the normal functionality. I did a scan with the unit itself and did a frequency coordination. And now I'm monitoring all my channels, just as you would with a DSQD or a DCR822, anything like that. So that is done and very close to release. So again, I know people have been asking us about that and have been very patient. We appreciate your patience.
And Karl, just to be clear, that's for both the DSR and the DSR4.
Well, this one here is DSR4. DSR is a separate update, and that's coming behind. So you'll see the next update will be for DSR4, and then we'll add the DSR shortly thereafter.
Copy.
So that's coming soon.
Okay, and that's for both Mac and PC.
That's correct. We have both Mac and PC versions developed and ready to go. So you did mention, wireless designer with DSR. So we've got a DSR firmware update coming. The only version out there right now is the initial release version. So we've got an update coming. It's going to be version 1.38/1.32. And it will have compatibility with Sound Devices 8 series, docks, and wireless designer support. That's for the DSR. So that's coming very soon in the unit itself. Now, speaking of that, the Sound Devices 8 series does not yet recognize the DSR, but that is an announcement coming fairly soon. I don't know what the date is, and I don't mean to press them by any means. They've got a lot of programming to do, but it's coming soon.
Yeah, I think it's worth saying, what a monumental task they've taken on with SuperSlot and to ensure compatibility. Yeah. Absolutely. Now, when you say it doesn't recognize it, will it pass audio and it just can't control it or understand or command it?
Can't control it or command it, and but it would pass audio.
It'll pass audio. Okay. All right. So until then, at least, we can get audio. And that's DSR2, that's the regular DSR.
Yeah.
And how is the DSR4 with SuperSlot?
It's already there. And it has been for some number of months. I believe they've had 2 updates. 9.30 was the first one that accommodated it, and then 9.40. So, in fact, I've got a bag here with that's sort of part of my demo kit is that exact setup is 2 DSR4s in an SL2 with an 833, and it works beautifully.
Yes,
So
and we did a series of videos with Jeff Delorier on how he uses the 8 series with the DSR4.
yes,
Real
yeah,
like nuts and bolts, practical stuff. Uh,
yeah, which is great because their world and their interface is different than ours, of course, and it's great to show how you would do any one function. Especially elegant is their scan, where you can see everything and then zoom in and move your channels around and assign them to a given receiver within the units. So really cool.
Absolutely. Is there other updates that you want to share with us?
Yeah. So I also want to point out that the UMCWBD, that's this rack able to accommodate any one of our portable receivers. So I wanted to show this picture that we took with the UMCWBD, and in it is mounted a DSR4 on the far left, a DCR 822, an SRC, and a UCR 411. So this has the SMA type antenna connectors. So all of the smaller receivers have that, the
Yes.
DSR, DSR4. And then because each one of these has a different physical kind of shape, there's a different mounting kit and then a different power tail that goes with each of these. So for instance, a kit might have something like this. So this has got a bezel for the front and the screws to mount the receiver to it, and then a collar for the middle where it's clamped down in the middle, and then a power tail. In this case, it's the Hiroshi 4. So you could mount your DSR4 with the USB backplate and power it up. And the mounting and powering kits are actually quite inexpensive. Most expensive thing in there is going to be like that Hiroshi 4 power connector, or in the case of the 411, it's going to have 2 SMA to BNC adapters. But other than that, they're very economical and simple to use.
That's very cool. So, for those looking to place an order, they'd place an order for the rack and then the individual kind of adapter kits that they needed for their receivers.
You got it, exactly. So they would say, "Hey, I got 2 DSR4s and an 822 and an SRC." So that would be 2 of the DSR kits, an 822 kit, and an SR kit.
Super helpful. I immediately sort of go to making remote, sort of receive pods with that rack mount. And so in my head, I'm kind of sketching out, that rack plus a Dante interface. And
Mhm.
then for those that have the DSR receivers or anything that's controlled over USB by Wireless Designer, maybe some kind of USB to Ethernet gateway. Yeah, that could be like its own self-contained pod over Dante. Even
No,
like with
absolutely.
with
Yeah.
Electro Bob. Bob is your uncle. There you go.
Bob 88,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. That.
Um,
Huh.
yeah, Peter. No, that makes sense. And, I'm envisioning too just folks that have a cart and want to move their receivers from bag to cart. I think that's what this is really designed for. And
How
so it's got a number of uses.
easy is it to go to like pull it out and make it into a standalone receiver?
Quite easy. I mean, because these will all have back plates on them, usually EXT type backplate. It's a matter of unscrewing it from the front or unclamping the middle bar that's holding it.
Mm-hmm.
It's screwed down. Loosen it a little bit, slide your receiver out the front, and unconnect it, and you're done. So pretty simple.
Very cool. All right. So the back plate would be the DB25s on there, or you would just use the TA3s, the regular
Yeah,
TA3s.
TA3 type, TA5 type.
Yeah,
Your EXT backplates. This doesn't have any audio routing
got
in
it.
it.
It's yeah,
So
so super
and
super quick, super easy. Yeah, okay.
Right, and the idea behind that was that it would accommodate any receiver. So, like an 822 doesn't have, it's only got TA3 outs. So, the idea was, take your audio out of the receivers themselves in whatever format you want, and most of these now have AES coming out of them natively,
Hmm.
and plug that into your mixer or router, whatever you
Yeah,
want to do.
well, however you do it. Quick
Hmm.
aside, did a shoot in Times Square,
Hmm.
which is the densest RF environment, at least in New York. And the production mixer brought 411s,
Hmm.
which I thought at first I was like, oh, I mean, he only needed to make 2 work, so he brought 4. That's that's just the way we are, as
Oh,
you
yeah,
know.
no,
And
redundant's good.
but yeah, the 411s are still popular and kicking, and they kicked ass in Times Square. I mean, really, just was able to find the 2 frequencies and 2 backups that he needed, and off he went.
It's been a great radio for us. I mean, it had about an 18-year life on the market, which is pretty amazing for an electronic
Amazing.
device.
Yeah, yeah.
And just the other day, we posted something on social media with a picture of kind of like a historic family, everything from, let's say, current product all the way back to some quite old products, and asked people to talk about what's the oldest product they have that's still in use. Many mentioned the 411 and its predecessor, the 211.
Yeah.
People talked about the 195s. People talked about even older than that. Some guy said, I've got 185s on my shelf,
Yeah. No,
that are still potentially serviceable.
I started in the 190 era of
Mhm.
like in terms
Yeah.
of buying electrosonics. And hey, Gotham, I haven't seen him in a little bit, but we still have a street musician that comes in with his mouse receiver and pays Alex in quarters to fix it. No, I'm not joking. And yeah.
Yeah. Wow. No, it's great. And someone mentioned that in the thread. Something there's got to be a mouse out there. We see them in repair here.
Yeah,
We work on them.
I'll bet.
It's one of the first products I ever saw at a music store in the 80s, late 80s.
Yeah.
So a lot of history there. A lot of history. One other product going into the future,
Yeah.
sort of. It's a bridge between the past and the future.
Uh-huh.
An accessory that we've talked about a little bit, but I want to show again today and talk about for just a minute is the SR DB25 AES. Okay, so this was something that a lot of people requested, particularly when they started having receivers that had digital outputs, and it became a chorus of folks asking once we came out with the DSR4 and the DSR, because you can come out of those natively in digital format. So when you dock the new receivers into something like an SL2, and you try to also put your legacy SRC into that dock, which only has analog outputs, the dock will automatically turn all inputs to analog because it has to accommodate the older unit. And so what people have asked for is, we need an adapter that lets us put an SRC into one of these docks and have digital outputs so that everything can be digital, so they don't have to use external cables to plug into the side of the mixer, things like that. So here it is. It's called the SRDB25 AES. We're very shortly going to send the information out to the dealers with pricing and information. These units are done. They're on our shelf. The only thing that has to happen is that it has to be recognized by the docks. So for instance, sound devices, here's some more programming that they need to do, is
Right.
to have this be recognized. So when you put your SRC in the dock with the unit, it'll recognize it as a digital output receiver and let you continue to use digital outputs with your DSR4. That's exactly what this does. And coming very soon, again, once that programming is done and they announce that, then this will be out. So a little tidbit here is that with an SRC, I should have put it on a receiver, but with this mounted on an SRC, the height is exactly the same as it is for a DSR4. So you put a DSR4 in the slot, you put this in the slot with an SRC, and they're exactly the same height. So that means whatever mounting hardware you might need for a DSR4 would also be used with an SRC with this adapter.
Fascinating.
That makes sense.
No, that makes total sense, and that's what a great way for people to use their existing gear, but still have all the modern functionality. That's very cool of you guys to listen and come out with that product.
Well, us, we're all about backwards compatibility, and we're all about extending the life of older products as long as possible because people have made an investment in them. They work just fine. As you said, people are out there with 411s, people are out there with SRBs, people are out there with even older products, and we do everything we can to make sure that they still are able to use those, even if there's new features and new products out now that you might want to use with them.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome.
One thing I do want to talk about, because it's come up a lot with reality guys, is the party dialing feature. The party dialing, it's a term that's come up especially with reality guys because they've got so many cast members, and then each time they shoot, they typically eliminate some cast, plus they're moving from one location to another, and there's many teams, E&G teams working one of these sets. So what they want to be able to do is to come in with the device and look through a list of frequencies that represent cast members and pick from that. So it's basically an expansion of the group tuning, but it's been enhanced with adding the names, which really helps because otherwise they're calling out, I need you to move to 554.225,
Right.
as opposed to saying I need you to pick up Jenny, Steve, and Craig, and they're in this part of the house of this set. So that's really all it is just the ability to go into the unit and pick frequencies by name quickly.
And often it's called out over walkie, or you're just with a camera operator and certain cast members, and you have to do it on the fly.
I hope everyone knows by now, but every once in a while I run into this. People should know that there's a shortcut into the frequency page where you can do your party dialing by pressing the up and down arrows simultaneously.
Okay, so this is where I'm going to try and do this on our unit here.
And it takes a second. It's not going to do it instantly, but you should see.
Wait.
There you go.
Yes. That lets me choose very quickly between any number of channels within a group, including a user group. Is that right?
That's right. 4 user groups, each one holds 32 frequencies. And what's relatively new for us is that we've got it now by name. So you can enter a name to go with a frequency, and it will also capture the compat mode. So people with mixed systems, let's say they've got some DBSMs and some SMWBs in their collection, each of those might have different compat modes, or even older versus newer SMWBs, NA hybrid versus NU hybrid. So when you're programming the group, you can select the compat mode to go with that channel under that person's name. Then when you come here to this page to frequency, you can just simply scroll by name.
And, I really love that.
Huge shortcut.
Yeah, and I can see, a group of mixers on a reality show that want to maximize all the gear that they individually have. That just removes one potential penalty of mixing and matching, which is really great. It's great for everybody.
Absolutely.
And how easy is it to kind of like if I have a show with 16 contestants and 4 or 5 bag mixers, can I do this through Wireless Designer relatively easily, or how do I get that info in here?
You program it right through the interface itself. It's quite easy. Wireless Designer doesn't yet have that feature, but it will. It's on our list to add, of course.
Great. I imagine it's based on the group that is preset in the receiver. So if I'm on group 1 or group U or whatever it is, that's
right.
Pulling that from. Yeah.
Exactly. And you can program the groups through the interface. And it can take a little while, but once you've got that, what I want to show you is that you can actually group sync. And that means between units, you can share these groups. So let's say you create a group U and a group V.
Yes.
Each one of those has 26 frequencies for, the 26 cast members in the 2 different groups. Then you can share it to the different units. So that makes it quite, once you get the groups built, it becomes much easier.
Sure.
And then you can edit them from there. Let's say, okay, under the name Jenny, I want to change from, 554.200 to 556.325. No problem. You can edit the group entry, and the rest of the group is the same.
Got it.
So it's quite powerful.
That's great. So really, until Wireless Designer gets sorted, you put it all in one, and then you just IR sync from one to the other. Is that right?
Yes, and we've had people ask us, well, what if I've got 2 units next to each other in my bag, let's say? How would I do IR sync? I know, sounds crazy, but with a mirror or any shiny surface, just simply hold it up because the IR is going to come out and bounce into the next unit.
Yes, I can imagine a little market for like prisms and like triangle shaped, like pyramid shaped reflectors and stuff. But yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It would work. It's low tech. I mean, a piece of tinfoil, anything to just get that infrared to bounce, and
it's great.
It's done.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. Yeah, I can absolutely see that being a really useful function, and very much appreciated.
the reality guys come to us often with, ideas. Here's how we could save a few minutes on the set, because they are always absolutely scrambling, as you know. You've worked on some of those
Yeah,
types of shows.
anytime you can shave time.
Yeah,
Here's a Schneider request: bitmap images. Because everybody has the card with with cast members' faces as an image. So if once Wireless Designer gets up and going, just being able to cycle through like a cast picture with their name on the bottom.
that's cool. I like that.
All right, we'll see.
Well, to be honest, I've covered most of what I wanted to cover today, but if you've got questions or other suggestions, anything else that you want me to explain or go into more details, I'm happy to do that.
Well, look, I very selfishly would love to, if you could show me, if we can, I'll turn the DSR4 off and just, show me and by extension our viewers, how would
Yeah,
you scan for 4 new frequencies?
sure thing. Super easy. When you power it up, you hit your menu button. The first thing is RF setup. Third thing in that menu is scan.
Scan.
And right away, as soon as you push that button, it's going to use all 4 receivers to scan the available spectrum.
Now, one thing I just have to point out that I think is awesome is it split each of the 4 receivers into different parts of the spectrum to
Yeah.
quadruple the speed in which it can scan.
And as you can see, it's quite fast.
Yes.
I mean, it takes, I don't know, less than 10 seconds, somewhere like that,
Yeah.
to do a scan. It'll keep going as long as you ask it to.
Okay.
Now, if I press the menu select button again, it's going to pause.
Got it.
What you see at the upper right is now, it'll say RX1.
Mm-hmm.
That means that those cursors become live and I can tune it right on the spot. However, it's showing 144 mega spectrum, so it's quite small, and it'd be a little bit challenging to tune with this view.
Correct.
So from here, if I press the up and down buttons together,
Okay.
I'm going to zoom in now.
Got it. And it says scan zoomed.
That's right, scan zoomed, and there you go. Now we're seeing a very narrow view. And now using the up and down arrows, I'm going to tune coarsely, right?
Yeah,
You'll notice it jumps something several hundred kilohertz at once, right?
exactly.
Now, if I want fine,
Mhm.
I press and hold the menu select button, and now I'm moving in 100 kilohertz steps.
Got it. And I have to say, zoomed out, it looked like a frequency disaster, but zoomed in, I can see a bunch of free TV channels.
Exactly. So that's really all there is to it.
Carl, let me ask you something. How am I coordinating? What's the best way to coordinate? Will the receiver coordinate the 4 channels for me?
When you're using scan, it's really going to just be looking for empty holes. It's not going to do frequency coordination.
Mm-hmm.
So the way to do that, I would say, with the receiver by itself is actually to use Smart Tune.
Got it. Yep.
So if we go back out to the RF setup menu,
Mm-hmm.
the first item there, Smart Tune, we click on that and it's going to ask which receiver we want to tune. And that's an important point, because this would actually allow you to leave 3 of your receivers alone. Let's say they're working great and I need to fix one of my channels.
Right.
I can pick which one is going to do the Smart Tune.
And it's going to ask me which range my transmitter is corresponding to.
That's right, because with hybrid transmitters, let's say if I'm on channel 4 and that's set up in a new hybrid compat mode, it knows that those are available in A1, B1, and C1 and things like that.
Got it.
Or you could even do an individual block. So you might be using an SMQV and that's only 1 block wide. So it lets you pick that. And once you've done that, it's going to scan only that area and choose the best frequency.
Got it. And all of the rules of Smart Tune apply. So I would be doing this with my other transmitters on, unless
That's
of
right.
course this was the first one, and that's how it can see in real time the intermods.
That's right. It sees that and will pick a clean channel that's not going to interact with what else is already there. And then if you want to add more channels, you would simply repeat this. And as you said, the key element there is that the transmitters then be turned on. If you're starting fresh and you don't have anything, you're going to do 4 channels, start with your transmitters off and do 1 at a time, turn them on, and then put them approximately where you think they're going to end up to be, so that it gets a real world look at signal level, intermods, as you said, if there are any, and so on.
And just to kind of close the circle in terms of frequency coordination and taking advantage of the features of this receiver, I can take this receiver with me on a Scout with Wireless Designer with nothing special. I mean, just using the USB on the side there, and I can scan my spectrum with just this receiver quickly, and then do my coordination well ahead of time. I can even send this ahead with another mixer or with an A2, and they can do the Scout with the receiver.
Sure enough, absolutely. Yep.
I'm asking this because I really don't know. Does this receiver have the capability of storing scans and then forwarding it later to Wireless Designer?
I don't think it can store the scan.
Okay.
That could possibly be added. I'll look into that. That's an interesting thought.
Because the on the IEM side, those receivers can do that. You can kind of IR upload the scans.
You're right. Yeah, with an M2R, M2RA, those also scan right on the device, and that can be transferred out. You're right.
All right. All right.
And here you could do it with Wireless Designer, but you're asking about whether or not you could do it on the unit itself.
Yeah.
But if you're out there with, let's say, a Windows Pro tablet, that kind of thing, certainly store it with Wireless Designer.
All right. Well, Karl, thank you so much for spending the time. We really appreciate it. Please, if you have any questions or comments, let us know. We will respond. And thanks for watching. Thanks to our crew. And we will see you again next time. Listen, I'm going to just throw this out there. Can you share us the top secret new products that you are working on?
No.